I stand in my graduation gown, watching my parents fawn over Sophia in the family section, their cameras pointed at my adopted sister who graduated with barely passing grades, while I achieved summa cum laude honors, and I realize this is the third time they've forgotten that today is actually my graduation ceremony, not hers. The irony burns through my chest like the scalpel cuts I've perfected in surgery rotations, precise and devastating, because while Sophia stumbles through basic anatomy questions, I've already published groundbreaking research on minimally invasive cardiac procedures that will save thousands of lives. Father adjusts his expensive watch and whispers something to Mother that makes them both laugh while looking at Sophia, their faces glowing with pride that should belong to me, the daughter who spent 4 years working 18-hour days in research labs, while Sophia attended charity galas and shopping trips to Paris, funded by the Chen medical dynasty fortune that my innovations have been quietly building. The morning light streams through the auditorium windows like surgical spotlights, illuminating the truth that has been festering in my chest like an untreated infection. My family doesn't see Elena Chen, the medical prodigy. They only see Elena Chen, the shadow behind their precious adopted daughter who carries our family name without understanding the legacy of surgical excellence it represents. My diploma feels weightless in my hands, this piece of paper that validates 4 years of sacrifice and brilliance. While across the aisle Marcus Webb's family takes pictures of him receiving his own medical degree, the childhood friend whose gentle smile used to make me believe that intelligence and dedication would eventually earn the recognition I deserved. But Marcus isn't looking at me either, his attention focused on Sophia, who waves at him with the practiced charm of someone who has spent her entire life being adored for existing while I've spent mine being ignored for achieving. The memories cascade like a differential diagnosis, each symptom pointing to the same devastating conclusion that my family never saw me at all. When I won the National Medical Research Competition at 22, they celebrated Sophia's acceptance to a mediocre residency program instead, the champagne flowing while my trophy gathered dust in my bedroom, because bringing it downstairs might make dear Sophia feel inadequate about her own struggles to pass basic clinical rotations. When I invented the Chen cardiac clamp that revolutionized heart surgery and bears our family name, Father patted my head and told me Sophia needed my research notes to pass her surgery rotation, as if my life's work was just study material for his precious adopted daughter who couldn't suture a simple laceration without supervision. Every achievement became a teaching moment for Sophia. Every breakthrough, I made another opportunity for my parents to explain why I should share my knowledge with the sister who smiled sweetly while copying my homework throughout high school and college, her academic record a careful forgery built on my genuine accomplishments. I published 12 peer-reviewed papers before graduation, my name in medical journals that Father keeps on his office shelf, but when colleagues congratulate him on his brilliant daughter's research, he always mentions Sophia's involvement as my collaborator, even though she contributed nothing beyond asking me to explain concepts she should have learned in basic medical school coursework. The pattern crystallized during my junior year when I developed a new suturing technique that reduced cardiac surgery recovery time by 40%, a discovery that earned international recognition for the Chen family and generated millions in licensing fees for our medical empire. But the day the World Health Organization called to congratulate our family on my innovation, Father told them he was proud of both his daughter's collaborative efforts in advancing medical science. I listened from the kitchen as he described Sophia as the creative visionary and me as the detail-oriented researcher, reducing my revolutionary breakthrough to footnote status in my own family's narrative about their children's success. Mother's complicity cut deeper than Father's neglect because she understood what it meant to be overlooked by powerful men, having risen from humble nursing background to marry into medical aristocracy. But instead of protecting her biological daughter from the same dismissal, she encouraged my selflessness as virtue and Sophia's dependence as natural sisterly bond. Elena is so generous with her knowledge. She would tell family friends while Sophia presented my research at medical student conferences. She really believes in lifting others up rather than seeking personal glory, as if my desperate need for recognition was character flaw rather than basic human desire to be seen for who I truly was. But the final betrayal comes when Sophia presents my revolutionary tissue regeneration research as her own at the International Medical Conference. The presentation I spent 3 years perfecting while working 18-hour days in the lab, And Marcus Webb is in the audience watching with admiration as my sister takes credit for discoveries that could change medicine forever. I watch from the back of the auditorium as the man I've loved since childhood, the brilliant surgeon whose family has been friends with ours for generations, approaches Sophia after her presentation with that gentle smile that used to be reserved for me, and I know in that moment that she hasn't just stolen my research but also my future. The tissue regeneration protocol represents everything I am as a physician and scientist. 3 years of experimental failures and breakthrough moments, countless nights in the laboratory perfecting cellular growth mediums while Sophia attended medical school, social events, my entire identity as a researcher distilled into 15 pages of methodology that could revolutionize how we treat damaged organs and save millions of lives worldwide. But Sophia delivers my presentation with the confidence of someone who believes she deserves credit for work she's never understood, her explanations shallow and rehearsed, missing the profound implications of discoveries that kept me awake with excitement when I first achieved successful tissue regeneration in my private laboratory. Marcus's questions reveal his genuine fascination with the research, his surgical mind immediately grasping applications that Sophia clearly hasn't considered, and I watch her stumble through responses that demonstrate her complete ignorance of the scientific principles underlying my breakthrough, while he nods politely and assumes her nervousness explains the gaps in her knowledge. The medical community erupts in applause for Sophia Chen, the brilliant young researcher who has solved one of regenerative medicine's greatest challenges, while I stand invisible in the shadows knowing that everything they're celebrating belongs to me. Dr. Harrison, my former mentor, shakes Sophia's hand and tells her that her research represents the future of surgical medicine, the same words he spoke to me 6 months ago when I first showed him successful tissue regeneration results in my private lab. And I realize that Sophia has stolen not just my research, but also the professional relationships I've spent years cultivating through genuine scientific collaboration. The standing ovation that should be mine thunders through the auditorium while I slip out the back exit, my heart breaking like a patient flatlining despite every attempt at resuscitation. For 5 years after graduation, I work as the shadow surgeon behind Chen Medical Empire's success. My innovative techniques and pharmaceutical patents generating millions in revenue, while Sophia plays the role of brilliant heiress for medical journals and society events, her face on magazine covers while my hands perform the surgeries that save lives and my brain develops the procedures that other hospitals pay fortunes to license. Father announces Sophia as his successor at the annual medical gala, the same event where my latest cardiac innovation wins international recognition, but they put Sophia's name on the award because she's the public face of our family's medical achievements. The Chen medical dynasty that began with my great-grandfather's pioneering heart surgery techniques now rests on foundations I built through sleepless years of research and innovation, every breakthrough procedure and pharmaceutical patent bearing my fingerprints, while Sophia cuts ribbons at hospital openings and poses for photographs with medical equipment I designed. My surgical techniques are taught in medical schools worldwide, the Chen method of minimally invasive cardiac repair saving thousands of lives annually. But when medical historians write about our family's contributions to modern surgery, they describe Sophia as the visionary leader and Elena as the dedicated researcher who supports her sister's revolutionary ideas. The financial empire built on my innovations funds Sophia's lifestyle of luxury and leisure while I work 80-hour weeks in operating rooms and research laboratories. My salary, a fraction of the licensing fees my patents generate for the family business, because Father believes that Elena doesn't need money as motivation when she has the satisfaction of advancing medical science for humanity's benefit. Board meetings become exercises in watching Sophia take credit for quarterly revenue generated by my latest pharmaceutical breakthroughs. Her presentations filled with buzzwords and medical terminology she's memorized without understanding, while investors applaud the brilliant Chen heiress who represents the future of medical innovation. When Forbes magazine features Sophia on their cover as one of medicine's most promising young entrepreneurs, the article describes her revolutionary approach to cardiac surgery and regenerative medicine without mentioning that every innovation attributed to her was developed in my private laboratory using research methods I perfected through years of experimental failures and breakthrough moments. I keep the magazine in my office desk drawer, A reminder of how completely my identity as a medical pioneer has been erased and transferred to someone who couldn't perform basic surgical procedures without endangering patients' lives. The final nail in my coffin comes at Marcus's birthday party when he announces his engagement to Sophia, thanking her for being his inspiration and collaborator in advancing medical science, the same medical science I developed in sleepless nights while Sophia attended charity galas and shopping trips to Paris. I stand in the corner of the Webb family's mansion watching my childhood friend, the man who once promised to change the world with me, slip a 5-carat diamond onto my sister's finger while praising her for the very research that cost me my sanity and social life to complete. Marcus's speech about Sophia's brilliant mind and innovative research feels like surgical instruments cutting through my chest cavity, each word precisely placed to cause maximum damage, because he's describing qualities that belong to me while looking into the eyes of someone who has never had an original thought about medical science in her entire life. The Webb family fortune, built through generations of surgical excellence, will now merge with the Chen medical dynasty through a marriage founded on lies and stolen achievements, while I remain the invisible sister whose actual brilliance will continue generating wealth for a family that refuses to acknowledge her existence. The engagement ring catches the light like a scalpel blade as Sophia displays her hand to the assembled medical elite, her smile radiant with the confidence of someone who has never doubted her right to claim credit for others' work, and I watch Marcus kiss her forehead with the gentle affection I dreamed would someday be mine when he discovered that Elena Chen was worth loving for herself rather than her sister's reflected glory. Dr. Webb, Marcus's father and father's longtime colleague, toasts the happy couple by praising Sophia's contributions to cardiac surgery research, the same research I've been developing since medical school, while she struggled to understand basic anatomy textbooks. That night, I drive my car off the cliff overlooking our childhood homes, the headlights illuminating the path Marcus and I used to walk while discussing our dreams of saving lives together. And my last thought before the impact is wondering if anyone will even notice I'm gone, or if they'll just assume I'm working late in the lab again. The speedometer needle climbs past reasonable limits as I press the accelerator toward the guardrail that separates the mountain road from the valley below, my final act of rebellion against a life spent being invisible while others claimed credit for my existence, and I hope that somewhere in the aftermath of my death, someone will discover the truth about which Chen daughter actually changed the world through medical innovation. Then I open my eyes and realize I'm lying in my cramped medical school dormitory bed, the anatomy textbooks scattered across my desk exactly as they were 7 years ago on the morning of my first cardiac surgery rotation, and the calendar on my wall shows the date that changed everything. March 15th, the day I met Dr. Harrison, who would become my mentor, the day I first glimpsed the research that would define my career, the day Sophia started following me around, asking innocent questions about my studies. The knowledge hits me like a massive cerebral hemorrhage, devastating and immediate. Every detail of my past life intact, from the moment Marcus smiled at me in pediatric ward to the moment Sophia accepted his proposal while wearing the earrings I designed in biochemistry lab. I know exactly what's coming. Every manipulation and theft and public humiliation, every moment my family will choose Sophia over me, every time Marcus will unknowingly fall for my sister because she's wearing my achievements like designer clothing. My hands shake as I touch the textbooks that will lead to discoveries worth millions of dollars and thousands of saved lives. Research that in my previous life became Sophia's stepping stone to wealth and recognition, while I remained the invisible genius behind her manufactured success. The dorm room smells like disinfectant and ambition, 24 years old again, with the accumulated wisdom of someone who has watched her life's work elevate others while she remained forgotten. And I know that this impossible second chance means I can rewrite every betrayal and theft that destroyed my future. The mirror above my desk reflects the same face that once believed family love meant unconditional support and hard work guaranteed recognition. But behind my eyes burns the cold fire of someone who has seen exactly how loyalty and brilliance are rewarded by people who mistake kindness for weakness. I remember every patent that will revolutionize medical treatment, every surgical technique that will save lives, every moment when I trusted others to give credit where it was deserved, and I feel the surgical precision of someone who knows exactly which relationships to preserve and which ones to cut away like malignant tissue. This time will be different, because I'm no longer the naive girl who believed family meant unconditional love and hard work earned recognition. I'm the woman who spent years watching her life's work elevate others while she remained invisible, and I have 7 years of knowledge about medical breakthroughs, stock market trends, and most importantly, exactly which people deserve my loyalty and which ones deserve to discover what happens when they lose Elena Chen. I look at my reflection in the small dorm mirror and see the same 24-year-old face that once believed in fairness and happy endings, but behind my eyes burns the cold fire of a woman who knows exactly how this story ends and has every intention of rewriting the conclusion. Sophia thinks she can steal my research again. Father believes he can overlook me for another 7 years, and Marcus assumes he'll fall in love with the wrong sister. But they're all about to learn that Elena Chen is not their supporting character anymore. The tissue regeneration research that will define my career exists only in my mind right now. 7 years of experimental data and breakthrough moments compressed into knowledge that I can use strategically rather than generously. And I know that protecting my intellectual property requires the same precision as performing surgery on a patient whose life depends on my steady hands and clear thinking. This time, when Sophia asks innocent questions about my studies, I'll smile sweetly and redirect her attention towards subjects that won't lead to stolen achievements and destroyed dreams. Marcus Webb will get to know the real Elena Chen this time, not the shadow behind her sister's stolen brilliance, and I'll make sure that when he looks for a research partner and life companion, he's seeing the woman whose mind created the innovations he admires, rather than the woman who memorized presentations about work she never understood. My family will learn that their overlooked daughter is actually the genius who built their medical empire, but only after I've secured my own position and protected my future from their destructive favoritism. The first change I make is visiting the patent office the next morning instead of going to surgery rotation, filing intellectual property claims on every research idea I developed in my past life before Sophia even knows they exist, each application time-stamped and legally protected with the kind of ironclad documentation that will destroy anyone who tries to steal my work. I establish private research accounts, copyright my methodologies, and create a paper trail that will expose any attempt at theft with the precision of a master surgeon dissecting lies from truth. The patent attorney, Ms. Rodriguez, listens with growing amazement as I describe tissue regeneration protocols and cardiac surgical innovations that represent years of advanced research, her legal mind immediately recognizing the commercial and medical value of discoveries that will revolutionize multiple fields of medicine. Ms. Chen, this level of innovation typically requires extensive laboratory testing and clinical trials, she tells me while reviewing my detailed methodology descriptions, but I explain that my research builds on existing studies and represents theoretical frameworks ready for practical application, which is technically true even if the existing studies haven't been published yet. Each patent application costs thousands of dollars from my student loan money, but I know that these legal protections will generate millions in licensing fees once my research proves successful, and more importantly, they establish me as the undisputed creator of medical breakthroughs that Sophia will never be able to claim as her own work. The documentation includes detailed experimental protocols, theoretical frameworks, and clinical applications that demonstrate deep understanding of regenerative medicine principles, creating legal proof that Elena Chen developed these innovations independently through her own scientific genius. When Sophia innocently asks about my research notes that evening, I smile sweetly and tell her I've decided to keep my work private until publication. Watching her face fall as she realizes her usual method of academic theft has been completely blocked, I document every conversation, every attempt she makes to access my materials, building a case that will destroy her credibility when the time comes to reveal her true nature to our family and the medical community, because this time I have legal protection and documented evidence rather than just wounded feelings and stolen dreams. Instead of spending every waking moment in the laboratory like my previous life, I strategically network with classmates who I know will become department heads and medical pioneers, sharing selected insights that establish my reputation as a collaborative genius rather than an isolated workaholic. I mentor junior students who will remember my kindness when they become influential physicians, and I cultivate relationships with professors who previously only knew me as the quiet Chen daughter who submitted brilliant work but never spoke in class. Dr. Martinez, who heads the cardiac surgery department, becomes my most valuable ally when I demonstrate advanced surgical techniques during clinical rotations, my hands moving with the confidence of someone who has performed these procedures thousands of times, even though officially I'm just a medical student learning basic skills. Elena, your surgical instincts are remarkable, she tells me after watching me assist in a complex cardiac repair. You anticipate complications before they develop and adapt techniques in ways that suggest years of experience rather than textbook knowledge. My study group expands to include future department heads and research directors, brilliant minds who will remember Elena Chen as the generous colleague who helped them understand complex medical concepts during their student years, building a network of professional relationships that will support my career advancement rather than hinder it like my family's systematic neglect. I share carefully selected insights from my previous life's research, establishing myself as an innovative thinker without revealing the full scope of knowledge that will differentiate me from my peers. Most importantly, I approach Marcus differently this time, engaging him as an intellectual equal, rather than the lovesick girl who used to trail behind him hoping for attention. Our conversations about medical ethics and surgical innovations, revealing the sharp mind he fell in love with when it was filtered through Sophia's inferior presentation. I watch him start to see me as Elena, the physician, rather than Elena, the little sister of his friend, and I know that this time when he looks for a research partner and life companion, he'll be looking at the right woman. Without access to my research and methodologies, Sophia's true academic abilities become glaringly obvious to professors and classmates who previously assumed the Chen family genius extended to both daughters, her test scores plummeting and clinical skills revealing themselves as dangerously inadequate for someone planning to become a practicing physician. I watch with clinical detachment as she struggles through surgical simulations I could perform blindfolded, her hands shaking as she attempts procedures that require the kind of steady precision that separates competent doctors from medical malpractice lawsuits. Professor Chen, no relation despite the name, pulls Sophia aside after her third failed attempt at basic suturing techniques, his concern evident as he explains that medical school graduates must demonstrate minimum competency levels before they can be recommended for residency programs, and watching from across the simulation lab, I see Sophia's confidence crumble as she realizes that charm and family connections cannot substitute for actual medical knowledge. Her clinical evaluations reveal dangerous gaps in fundamental understanding, from basic anatomy to pharmacology, knowledge deficits that were previously hidden by her access to my research notes and completed assignments. The breaking point comes during our clinical ethics presentation when Sophia, desperate to impress the review board that will determine our residency placements, attempts to present a half-remembered version of my tissue regeneration research without understanding the underlying science. Her explanation so fundamentally flawed that Professor Martinez stops her mid-sentence to ask if she's having a medical emergency. I sit in the back of the lecture hall watching my adopted sister's academic career implode in real time, her face flushing with humiliation as she realizes she's just proven her incompetence in front of the people who control her medical future. Miss Chen appears to be describing cellular regeneration protocols that would be toxic to human patients. Professor Martinez announces to the review board, her voice carrying the authority of someone who has spent decades evaluating medical research, and her fundamental misunderstanding of tissue compatibility suggests serious gaps in basic medical education that raise concerns about her readiness for clinical practice. The silence that follows feels like the moments after a patient flatlines, heavy with the understanding that Sophia's medical career is effectively over, and I feel the cold satisfaction of watching justice unfold through natural consequences rather than revenge. When Marcus approaches me after Sophia's disastrous presentation, asking if I can explain the tissue regeneration concepts my sister attempted to discuss, I carefully reveal the depth of my knowledge while maintaining the pretense that I'm simply better at explaining complex medical concepts than Sophia, who gets nervous during presentations. Our study sessions become intensely intellectual courtship rituals, where Marcus discovers that the innovative surgical techniques he's been developing align perfectly with the research I've been secretly perfecting, our minds connecting over medical mysteries like pieces of a complex puzzle that finally find their matching components. Elena, the way you understand cellular regeneration suggests you've been thinking about these problems for years. Marcus tells me during one of our evening study sessions, his admiration evident as I sketch out molecular pathways that explain how damaged tissue can be repaired using techniques that won't be discovered by other researchers for several years. I explain that I've always been fascinated by regenerative medicine, which is true, and that I've been developing theoretical frameworks for clinical applications, which is also true even if the timeline is more complicated than he realizes. Our conversations reveal intellectual compatibility that goes beyond academic collaboration, two surgical minds that challenge each other to think beyond conventional medical limitations. And I watch Marcus realize that spending time with me feels like discovering a research partner whose insights elevate his own thinking rather than someone who needs constant explanation of basic concepts. When he mentions that Sophia seems confused by research, she claimed to understand. I suggest gently that presentation anxiety might explain her difficulties, protecting his feelings while allowing him to draw his own conclusions about her actual capabilities. The moment I know I've won, his heart comes when he tells me that collaborating with me feels like finding the missing piece of his professional identity, that our discussions about surgical innovation inspire him to pursue research directions he never considered before meeting someone who understands medicine with such intuitive brilliance. I watch him realize that his attraction to Sophia was actually attraction to my ideas filtered through her prettier presentation, and I feel the cold satisfaction of justice when he starts looking at me with the admiration that was always meant to be mine. The confrontation with my parents comes when Father announces at family dinner that he's arranging a prestigious research fellowship for Sophia, despite her failing grades. The same fellowship I earned through merit in my previous life, but never received because they assumed I didn't need external validation like Sophia did. I present them with detailed documentation of every achievement they've overlooked, every opportunity they've given Sophia that should have been mine, every moment they chose their adopted daughter's feelings over their biological daughter's success. I have published 12 peer-reviewed papers, hold 17 medical patents, and maintain the highest grades in my class. I tell them with the calm precision of a surgeon delivering a terminal diagnosis, placing the legal documentation of my intellectual property claims on our dining room table like evidence in a malpractice lawsuit. While Sophia has failed 3 clinical rotations and requires constant tutoring to pass basic examinations, yet you continue to promote her as the family's medical prodigy while treating me like I'm invisible. The patent certificates and publication records spread across the table represent millions of dollars in future licensing fees and medical innovations that will save thousands of lives. Legal proof that Elena Chen has been developing revolutionary medical research, while her family credited her achievements to someone who couldn't pass basic competency examinations without extensive help. Father's medical mind processes the evidence with the same analytical precision he applies to surgical diagnoses, his face paling as he realizes that his overlooked daughter is actually the genius who has been elevating their family's reputation while he gave credit to someone who barely understands basic anatomy. I watch Mother's face crumble as she realizes the extent of their favoritism, her nurse's training helping her understand the medical complexity of research that Sophia could never have developed independently, and Father's hands shake as he examines patent applications that represent innovations he assumed were collaborative efforts between both daughters. The silence in our dining room stretches like the moments before a patient flatlines, heavy with the realization that they may have lost their most valuable daughter through years of systematic neglect, and I feel the surgical precision of someone who has successfully removed diseased tissue that threatened the health of everything around it. 6 months later, I stand before the International Medical Conference presenting my tissue regeneration research to thunderous applause. The same research Sophia attempted to steal in my previous life, now properly attributed to its true creator. And I watch medical professionals from around the world recognize that Elena Chen is the surgical innovator who will define the next generation of life-saving procedures. Marcus introduces me as his research partner and fiancé, the brilliant physician who challenged him to think beyond conventional medicine. And I feel the warmth of love that was always meant to be mine finally settling around my shoulders like a perfectly fitted surgical gown. The standing ovation continues for 3 full minutes, as medical researchers and hospital administrators realize they're witnessing the presentation of discoveries that will revolutionize regenerative medicine, tissue engineering, and cardiac surgery. Innovations developed by a young physician whose genius has been hidden behind family politics and stolen credit until now. Dr. Harrison, my mentor, shakes my hand with tears in his eyes as he tells the assembled medical community that Elena Chen represents the future of surgical science, her research bridging theoretical innovation with practical clinical applications that will save millions of lives worldwide. My research saves the life of a 7-year-old girl with congenital heart defects, the same child who died in my previous life because Sophia couldn't properly execute the procedure I developed, and I know that every moment of pain and neglect led me to this moment where my knowledge means life instead of death for innocent patients. The Chen cardiac regeneration protocol becomes standard treatment in pediatric hospitals globally, my name forever associated with surgical techniques that repair damaged hearts using tissue engineering methods that seemed impossible just months before my breakthrough presentation. Marcus proposes during the conference celebration dinner, presenting me with a ring while telling the assembled medical elite that marrying Elena Chen means partnering with the most brilliant surgical mind of our generation, and I accept knowing that this time our engagement represents genuine love and intellectual partnership rather than manipulation and stolen achievements. The medical journals that feature our engagement describe us as the power couple destined to advance surgical science through collaborative innovation, both our names linked forever in the medical community that once overlooked Elena Chen. Sophia's medical career ends when the ethics board discovers her pattern of attempted plagiarism and academic fraud, her residency application rejected by every hospital in the country once word spreads about the Chen daughter who tried to steal her sister's research and couldn't perform basic surgical procedures without endangering patients. Father quietly removes her from the family medical practice and cuts her inheritance, finally understanding that incompetence disguised as charm would have destroyed the Chen medical dynasty he spent his life building. The investigation reveals years of academic dishonesty, from copied homework assignments in high school to falsified research contributions in medical school, a pattern of theft and deception that explains how someone with Sophia's limited abilities managed to maintain acceptable grades while pursuing a medical degree she was never qualified to earn. Professor Martinez testifies before the ethics board that Sophia's fundamental misunderstanding of basic medical principles represents a danger to patient safety, her clinical evaluations demonstrating incompetence that could result in malpractice lawsuits and preventable deaths. I feel no satisfaction watching Sophia move back to her hometown to work as a nurse's aide, only the clinical detachment of a surgeon who has successfully removed a malignant tumor that threatened the health of everything around it. She made her choices, built her life on lies and theft, and now she lives with the consequences while I flourish in the career that was always meant to be mine. My success achieved through genuine merit rather than manipulation and family favoritism. The medical community that once celebrated Sophia as a rising star now understands that Elena Chen was always the true genius behind innovations attributed to the wrong sister, and I watch my reputation grow as colleagues realize they've been witnessing the work of a surgical pioneer whose brilliance was hidden by family politics until she finally claimed credit for her own achievements. Sophia's name disappears from medical journals and conference presentations, replaced by accurate attribution to the physician who actually developed the research that will save countless lives. Marcus and I marry in the hospital chapel where we first discussed our shared vision of saving lives through innovative medicine, surrounded by the medical professionals who recognize us as the power couple destined to revolutionize surgical care for the next generation. Our wedding gift to each other is the opening of the Webb Chen Research Institute, where we'll train future surgeons and develop life-saving procedures, our names linked forever in the medical community that once overlooked Elena Chen. Father walks me down the aisle with tears in his eyes, finally understanding that his greatest achievement isn't the medical empire he built but the daughter whose brilliance surpassed even his own surgical legacy, and Mother whispers that she's proud of the woman I became despite their failures as parents. I forgive them, because holding grudges takes energy I'd rather spend saving lives, and redemption is possible for those willing to acknowledge their mistakes and change their behavior toward the people they've wronged. The Webb Chen Institute opens 6 months after our wedding, funded by licensing fees from my medical patents and donations from hospitals worldwide that have implemented my surgical techniques, a research facility where brilliant minds will develop the next generation of life-saving medical innovations without worrying about credit theft or family politics. Our first clinical trial uses my tissue regeneration protocol to repair spinal cord injuries previously considered untreatable. success rates that establish our institute as the leading center for regenerative medicine research globally. As we exchange vows promising to love and support each other's dreams, I realized that rebirth gave me more than revenge. It gave me the chance to become the surgeon I was always meant to be, surrounded by people who love Elena Chen for exactly who she is rather than who they want her to pretend to be. The little girl whose heart I saved with my regenerative protocol sends me a drawing of two doctors holding hands, her childish handwriting spelling out, "Thank you, Dr. Elena, for giving me a new heart." And I know that this second chance at life has allowed me to fulfill my true purpose of healing others while finally healing myself. Our first anniversary celebration takes place in the surgical suite, where we perform our most complex operations together. Marcus and Elena Webb-Chen, working as perfectly synchronized partners whose combined skills represent the future of medical innovation, and I feel the profound satisfaction of someone who has found both professional fulfillment and personal happiness through her own merit rather than borrowed achievements. The surgical instruments gleam under operating room lights as we prepare to save another life together, my hands steady with the knowledge that I have become the physician I was always meant to be, finally recognized for my own brilliance rather than living in the shadow of someone who stole my dreams and called them her own.